This could be the turning point of the Warriors' entire season. Jonathan Kuminga has officially demanded a trade on the very first day he became eligible to be moved, January 15th. Now the question everyone in the NBA world is asking is simple: which team actually makes sense for him, and which trade ultimately gets done before the February 5 deadline? The Warriors have a decision to make: stay patient and hold out for a perfect offer, or finally cut ties and get something back while they still can. Meanwhile, multiple teams around the league are circling, some with real interest, others just slowly kicking the tires. This saga is far from over. Let's dive into the story, the market, and the real possibilities for Kuminga's next landing spot.
Are you just enjoying his success as well?
Well, I was telling James Williams that you're going to let us bang that much and then you're going to call a foul at the end. He not scoring on me. So you call a foul, that guy's not scoring on me. And then I said, you know, I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been that guy. Ask him, he know. Okay. And then Mike said to me, you're not going to speak? And I said, I'm sorry, Mike B, I'm sorry. So I gave him a hug. I apologize. But that's my guy, man. Able to work with Mike for, I think he was here 4 years. You know, and he was working on our defense. So the constant community, he would come to me every single day like, yo, thinking about doing this, what you think about it? Thinking about doing that. Look, I was watching this. I think we could throw something at them. So it was always constant communication. I learned so much from him. So, you know, I'm happy he was able to take something from here and learn from us. You know, he's continued to grow as a coach. And, you know, I think New York Knicks bringing him in as a coach, I think it's going to pay dividends for them.
For sure.
Dre, what's up, man? It's Blake. Congrats on the win, brother.
What up, Blake? Appreciate you, brother.
This is kind of the time of the season, you know, as of late, where you guys sort of hit your stride, right? And this is also a roster of guys that they haven't been with you guys for a long time, right? Like, obviously you and Steph, but a lot of new faces. What's your message to them in the locker room as far as staying with the process and trusting it and just going out and getting wins and taking it to the next level and getting to the playoffs like you guys have aspirations?
Well, most importantly, we're always hammering not to be a front-running team. You know, things have not gone great for us all year, but make sure that we're coming in with the same energy, same effort every day. You know, we just, earlier in the season, we just weren't getting the breaks. You know, we'd have a lead and shots weren't falling or play great defense, shots weren't falling, so the breaks just weren't going our way. But it's important that when they're not and things are going wrong, that we all stay together, that we, you know, that you don't get that, oh man, we're snake-bitten mentality. You got to keep pushing, and that's been our message to the guys, is just keep pushing through. It's starting to turn for us, and now we're starting to see that. And, you know, to everybody's credit, they've stuck with it, and it's starting to turn the corner for us.
Draymond, I want to ask you about this because I know how much of a mentor you are to young guys on this team. We have had a lot of conversations here about Jonathan Kuminga. And I was listening to the Draymond Green show, and you said if Jonathan Kuminga gets moved, anyone would be lucky to have a guy like him in their locker room. I want to give you a chance to maybe tell us how Kuminga's doing, but also how he's dealing with what is clearly a tense dynamic.
He's dealing with it better than probably I would. I was just telling someone today.
Ain't no problem.
The way he's dealt with this at 23 years old, I tip my hat to him because he stayed engaged. He's in here working out every day. His attitude is the same every day. He comes in with a smile. He's talking. He almost talks too much on the bench, and that is a compliment in itself. When you are 23 years old, you signed a big contract with the team that drafted you with the 7th pick, I think 7th or 8th pick in the draft. Things are looking up, you know, and then it doesn't. How do you respond to that? How do you react? And the way he's reacted and responded to this will not only carry the rest of his basketball career, but his demeanor will carry him the rest of his life well, because he's been incredible. And, you know, I tip my hat to him because it's a tough situation, right? Like, there's nothing no one can do about it. It just kind of is what it is. But who can do something about it is him, and the way he handled himself, and he's staying ready. So like I said on the show, whether he's here past the deadline or whether he's moved past the deadline, one thing's for certain is he'll be in shape and he'll be ready. He brings a great attitude. You know, he's one of the best. I say kids calling him young. He's not a kid. He's a grown man. But he's one of the best young guys I've been around. Doesn't have it's me. It's all about me. He doesn't have that attitude. He comes in, he's about the team. So I can't overstate enough.
Listen to how Draymond describes Kuminga's approach, even in a tense and uncertain situation. This isn't some kid sulking in the corner. By all accounts, he stayed engaged and ready. That clip is critical because it tells you how teammates see Kuminga, not as a drama puppet, but as a professional who still wants to ball and contribute. It also shows why teams around the NBA still believe there's untapped potential here. Athleticism, size, versatility, just not fully realized in Golden State's system. Now, let's get into the actual trade market, starting with the loudest names you're hearing in NBA circles.
String. That's a very serious thing as a player faces the twilight of his career. Steph and Draymond want their fifth. They look at each other and say, what we have now is special. How can we capitalize on that? And maybe that is a message.
Well, the elephant in the room is Jonathan Kuminga and what's happening around the fifth-year pro from the G League, Ignite. We see him walk in on the day he basically asked for a trade. I don't know if I want to say demanding, but we all knew if you're living in the Bay Area and follow the Golden State Warriors, this was brewing a long, long time ago. He was a restricted free agent, but today is the first day he's eligible to be traded. And with that said, we go down to Chase Center, courtesy of Comcast Business. Every connection counts with Warriors insider, two-time Emmy Award-winning Monty pulled his Fezzy Fails back. And of course, we have Petaluma's finest, Dalton Johnson, on the scene there at Chase Center. Monty, I'll start with you. Today's the day we've had circled on our calendar. What is the latest with Jonathan Kuminga?
Yeah, it has been 199 days that Jonathan Kuminga has been on the open market, from restricted free agency to signing a contract with the Warriors till today. January 15th, he is eligible for a trade. He wants out. The Warriors want to trade him. Nothing has happened yet, but Dalton Johnson has been all over this story. So, Dalton, what's the latest from what you get today?
The latest to me, Monty, is the same that it's always been, that it's clear that both of these sides need a split. It's the best move forward. The word demand is simply just a word. It's a technicality since he can technically become trade eligible starting today. It's a word that now Jonathan Kuminga and his camp can now use. The trade demand. But we've already seen the writing on the wall. This has been a months-long, a years-long misalignment from top to bottom when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga and what is best for him and for the Warriors. Nothing in my eyes has truly changed as far as that goes. I've been told that multiple teams have varying degrees in interest when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga. Different likeness when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga. Does that mean multiple suitors? Not right now, not from anything that I have gathered, Monty, but things change quickly in the NBA. Did we think Jimmy Butler was going to be on the Warriors last season on the trade deadline? No, we did not. Right. And then they changed really, really quickly. So now that we are at January 15th, I do think that things are going to become a lot more clear just how much can change in this 3-week window, Monty.
Yeah, you got 3 weeks to make a deal, or otherwise Jonathan Kuminga is on this roster for the next of this season, and nobody on the Warriors wants that. Jonathan Kuminga definitely doesn't want that. So, but that may be the way things turn out. They don't make a deal here in the next 21 days.
We shall see as this continues to be interesting with Jonathan Kuminga. We're going to discuss when he plays 30 minutes a game, and we'll come back to you guys a little bit later in the program, the timeline for Jonathan Kuminga. Look, it's been inconsistent, right?
Here's Chris Mullen on why everyone in the Bay Area knew this was coming and how missteps in rotation and development made this inevitable. That segment lays the groundwork. It's not just a single game or a single coach decision. It's been building up over years. Kuminga's limited role this season, combined with his diminished minutes, has impacted his trade value and made timing a real variable. Teams are watching closely, not just to see if he'll be traded, but when and for what. Now, time to talk landing spots. With the Warriors needing a return that actually helps their championship window, some teams make more sense than others.
I'm going to try to maintain my composure for the next 5 to 12 minutes because Jonathan Kuminga demanded a trade today, as reported by Shams Charania and Anthony Slater. If you listen to the podcast, you know that his agent, Aaron Turner, came on with Anthony Slater to discuss Kuminga's contract situation last fall. It was one of my more remarkable podcasts I've done in the last 10 years at ESPN because we had an active negotiation basically taking place on the podcast, which is unusual. It was, something they wanted to do, And so, Bobby, you've been involved in many negotiations. You've been involved in many trade situations with players. I just want to point out that Jonathan Kuminga, regardless of what you think of him as a talent, regardless of what you think of him as how the Warriors have handled him, which we'll get into, he has not played in 13 games. Okay? He could have played in a game about 2 weeks ago. Steve Kerr announced pregame that because the Warriors were resting players that he was going to play. And then he said his back hurt and he didn't play. You've heard of quiet quitting. The Warriors and Kuminga have quit loudly on each other. And we are talking about a player who is not playing for it. And this is not a comment on him as a person. This is not a comment on his situation. It's not a comment on his talent. We're talking about a player who is not playing on a team that Jimmy Butler says is mediocre, and Steve Kerr says is a fading dynasty, which both comments are accurate in my opinion. So, in what world does a player demand a public trade in a situation like this, Bobby? And I'm going to try to be quiet now and let your expertise in these situations take over.
Well, he could have just let me with my tweet last night at midnight at the Intuit Dome when I said, as the clock strikes midnight, Jonathan Kuminga.
Yeah, well, you weren't helping either with that tweet.
Jonathan Kuminga is now trade eligible along with 10 other players here. He could have let that just sit. And listen, when he signed the contract in October, after that long holdout or negotiation, because he was a restricted free agent, we all knew that January 15th was going to be the day that we would be talking about Jonathan Kuminga. And as you said, it becomes public knowledge that he has asked to be traded, a player that started the first 12 games in Golden State and now has been a DNP, a marriage that has been fading for a long time and, as you know, is definitely broken right now. I think it will be interesting. The veterans have said they want resolution. I think it'll be interesting to see.
So do I.
I think it will be interesting because, listen, teams know that Golden State, they think they has to trade Jonathan Kuminga. And I think if you're Mike Dunleavy Jr., their GM, you do want to trade Jonathan Kuminga. But what is coming in, right? Like, what are the offers that are coming in that where you don't have to take back money or where, the goal is to get front court help. But every whether it be Sacramento or some of the other team, they all got guards. Like, I don't know how many more guards this Golden State team needs and everything like that. But we have 3 weeks roughly to the trade deadline here. But I do think it's not something that all of a sudden Mike Dunleavy wakes up this morning and be like, oh my God, we got to trade him. They've been lining up scenarios probably since the start of the season, or even when he signed that contract.
Wendy,
Here's Bobby Marks on why this isn't simple, why Sacramento's interest might be real, and why other teams are hesitant to overpay. That voice matters. He's explaining the story from the trade machine angle. And here's the big takeaway. The Warriors are waiting for something that actually helps them now, not simply an asset dump. That's why a lot of teams have flirted but not committed to a deal yet. Now let's walk through the real teams linked to Kuminga so far, and why each makes a different kind of sense.
So, Shams, Anthony, joining me now. The Warriors have 3 weeks to do something. Shams, how did they get here, and what comes next?
MJ, the Jonathan Kuminga Golden State Warriors relationship is fractured. It is non-existent, specifically the relationship between Steve Kerr and Jonathan Kuminga. It's been described to me as fractured beyond repair, completely deteriorated. And everyone in that Warriors building knows that Jonathan Kuminga wants out. He's been wanting a trade out of Golden State, and tensions have only risen over the last several weeks when he's basically been banished. He's the 4th highest paid player on the Warriors, but he has not been in the rotation. So the Warriors have been canvassing the trade market for Jonathan Kuminga. 2 teams that have stood out with interest, mutual interest. Jonathan Kuminga has interest in them. They have interest in Jonathan Kuminga, are the Sacramento Kings and the Dallas Mavericks. He wants to get a trade elsewhere to see whether he is the all-star that he believes in himself.
Anthony, how are the Warriors viewing the situation?
I had one source basically describe the current situation as a, quote, complete waste of everybody's time. And I think the term everybody matters there because obviously you have a player who has these, ambitious career desires and at this point feels a little held hostage by the organization. You have a Hall of Fame coach who's made it very clear he doesn't think Kuminga fits with what they're trying to do to win now. And, Steve Kerr's very empowered at this moment, later in his career, coaching career, later in this core to make those decisions. And then you have a group of veterans who are, number one, they're pretty fond of Jonathan Kuminga, and they don't love seeing him in this limbo. And also, Jonathan Kuminga's making $22.5 million. He's rotting on the bench at this point, and they're trying to win a championship this season. Jimmy Butler said they're playing mediocre basketball recently. Well, that $22.5 million could be used in the trade market to get somebody who could help. And I think some of the reason you're feeling some of this angst building is because the Warriors are at least signaling to people that they don't have to trade Kuminga if they don't like the offers. And there are a lot of people on the ground level being like, this situation needs to get resolved by February 6th.
Anthony, there's always a tipping point. So where was it? Where did the relationship go bad here?
How long do we have? This is 5 years of a story, but I'll sum up what's happened recently quick. I mean, you have the contentious negotiations over the summer. Me and Shams are on here, basically every week, relaying the latest, issues between the two sides. He comes back feeling a type of way about the contract he feels he was forced into by the Warriors, this team structure or team-friendly structure to be traded. He thought he had, chances elsewhere where he would have got the starting job and opportunity he wanted. He starts to begin the season. It seemed like it was going well, but that was always on a rotten foundation where the moment it went wrong, Steve Kerr went away from Jonathan Kuminga. The moment Steve Kerr went away from Jonathan Kuminga, it was reopening old wounds where he said, Steve Kerr's never believed in me, and it kind of devolved from there. And I think the biggest picture takeaway I can say with my conversations with the Kuminga side is they feel like this is a 5-year tug of war where he is a pawn, and it is about the misalignment between ownership and a coach where Steve Kerr doesn't believe in Kuminga necessarily as a player that fits with his core, but ownership at various times has been unwilling to trade him, and we're in the 5th year of this basic hostage situation, and Jonathan Kuminga wants out at this point.
Yeah, a lot of layers there, but one thing clear, there's a riff. All right, Anthony, thank you so much. Kuminga has missed 23 games this season, but the Warriors boast a 13-10 record in those games compared to a 9-9 record with games with Kuminga.
Here's the breakdown of how this relationship deteriorated, the tension between coach and forward, and why teams think now might be the best chance to strike before the deadline. This story is far from finished, and as the deadline creeps closer, every single phone call, every offer, every GM strategy meeting could change everything in an instant. Now we want to hear from you. Where do you think Jonathan Kuminga should land? Should the Warriors trade him now or hold him and try to rebuild around Steph Curry? Who offers the best fit and the best value for Golden State? Drop your thoughts in the comments because this trade saga is just heating up. Let's talk.